Okay, welcome back. I think I'm here. Is everybody here? I also was curious to know, the music was playing, right? This is my first time doing this like a break thing and adding a little bit of entertainment. So I just want to make sure that everyone's go. I would just want to make sure that I wasn't the only one person who was listening to the music. Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Love the song. Yes, I have a good song selection, Ken. How was the volume of the music? Oh, Julia likes the music. Good. You know, music is a great way for me to tap into the spiritual place, though, which is something that I want to talk about because the second part of the talk today is the development of the self. And, you know, we are talking about coming from the spiritual place and then to nurture and develop the self, which once I started to learn the mechanism, I'm just going to call it mechanism of life and the relationship between myself and the deeper part of me and how I can be the catalyst and the medium to create anything I want. It's an interesting and fun journey. I want to talk the second half of today, and I promise that I'll be finishing by 10 Pacific Standard Time. I want to talk about the development of the self. So at the beginning today, I wanted to make sure that I am presenting the whole picture of how I see things. And I have been getting different feedbacks around you know, the way that I share this information is becoming simpler and simpler. You know, I often get this comment that it's a simple picture of something that feels like it's a complex thing, right? And then I think, as I said at the beginning, that you know, when you ask people what the definition of the soul is, you can have many, many different definitions. So I don't want you to fixate it in a certain way, but this is the view of my current awareness, and to start understanding that, you know, this is making sense to me and what feels good to you, because I think the perspective and the learning that we're having is just a vehicle for you to live the life freely the way that you want to be living. So one of the things that I'm going to be doing little by little is, you know, I like to draw using on the whiteboard because it gives people a picture. But at the same time, my invitation is that, okay, you're seeing that using the visible eyes, but to internalize it and to, you know, at the same time as you see and hear what I explain, to sort of take it to your mind journey of applying to, okay, what does this mean in my life? You know, what are the areas in my life that I can actually utilize this so it becomes an implementation, internalization, and embodiment of it. Before I go into the topic of the development of the self, I want to make sure that it's recorded, because I have had a time in the past that I forgot recording and I redo the whole thing over. So one of the things that I want to talk about, so I'm going to drop this in the chat box. This is a link that I want you to grab. And if you're watching this replay, you won't be able to see the chat box. But if you're attending this live, I want you to grab this link. This is a link that you can schedule a one-on-one call with me. And I'm inviting everybody to book a call because I want to help you solidifying a goal for your 2022, right? So this is for me to help you asking questions and to sort of for you to have a moment of sit back and reflect the 2021 and then what exactly you want to create in 2022. It doesn't really matter if you are new to me or if you're already working with me. I want to be the guide to begin creating a different 2022. Now, right now in this live session, I see 19 people. The link works, but not a page which we can sign up. The link works, but not a page which
So,
you can sign up. Yes.
sorry, in other words, well, at least on my iPhone, and I'm sorry, I'm out strolling and listening at the same time. I couldn't click on anything on that actual page. So maybe it works on a laptop, and I'll try it there. But
Okay. Maybe you
just
can
FYI. We'll go to your
copy and
website.
paste.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
But you will be receiving this link via emails and post it on the Facebook too. So you will, because I know that people, have that and then sort of forget about it. So you get the same as scan. Okay, what does that mean? No ability to sign up. No ability to sign up. What does that mean? No ability to sign up. It comes no ability. Okay, I will figure out. Don't worry about the link right now. I will figure out, and then you will receive. Oh, let me click on this though. What would happen for me if I do this? I think you just need to wait a little bit. No ability. It comes up no ability. It says there are no available times. Okay. How about this? And if this doesn't work, you will receive again. Okay, Sheila said that it works in Canada. It works in Canada. I hope it works everywhere. I think you might need to sort of refresh or something, but it should work. But don't worry if it doesn't work. So this is going to be an opportunity to sort of solidify goals. But one thing that I wanted to give you, talking about the urge of the soul, I want to give you a sense of urgency to book today because 19 people are here live. This summit, I have 70 plus register. So I'm going to extend that to everybody, right? And I have like a 20 spot next week. And after that, because I want people to have a clear goal next year, I'm going to extend this invitation of booking a call with me to all my Facebook group and the email list, which combined, it's going to be over 30,000 people. So I wanted to make sure that people who are attending the summit can get this spot quicker than others. So don't freak out if it's not going to the scheduling option, but Sheila, I think she got it. It's working in Canada, so we'll see. Okay, so I just want to make sure that I cover that first. Did you want to say something, Ken? No. Okay, so let's talk about the development of the self. Development of the self. So we are here. This is the interesting journey, and when I realize that we are programmed, when I realize and when I discover this truth that each and every one of us is programmed, that changed the entire course of my life. Let's see. I'm going to make it clean and then start over. So let's go back to this analogy that I talked about at the beginning, that you are called on this earth plane. You are called on this earth plane for a specific reason. And I want you to really feel and experience that the fact that you're here is a miracle. The fact that you're here is a magic. And instead of taking it for granted, I want you to feel the sacredness of it, right? And it's about going back to this idea that, okay, the infinite intelligence called me on this earth plane in this specific time in history, not like 100 years ago, not when the Aborigine was, whatever that is, right? We are here for a reason in this time, including when all the technological stuff is going on, including when the pandemic is happening, all that. So I want you to sort of let that sink in and then listen to what I'm about to say. Now, each and every one of us is programmed. Okay, Ken said it works. Okay, Azad is saying that it works for her. So it's not working for everybody. Okay, so each and every one of us is programmed. Each and every one of us is programmed. And notice that earlier today, I talked about this understanding that we're spiritual being having a physical body gifted with intellect. And the first, okay, Aline is drawing. Aline is drawing. Aline is drawing on the whiteboard. So I'm gonna clear that, unless she has something that she wants to express with the whiteboard. So if you start touching things, you start drawing. So I think I need to change the setup in the back to not to let other people draw. But maybe she has something to say about hypnosis. I don't know. So we're programmed, right? And then we're not the body, we're not the mind. So the program that we have is our thinking pattern. The program that we have is our belief that we're operating from. The program that we have is the habitual emotional home that we're living. And people call, trauma, people call different, situation that happened in the past triggering, and all those energy that we're carrying in a subconscious mind. We're genetically and environmentally conditioned. What does that mean? It means that you probably see your father and your mother in you as a personality-wise, psychology-wise. And I'm not saying that, so this genetic and environmental conditioning can be changed. And I'm not talking about the fact that, the height or, the me being a Japanese can be changed through focus attention. If that happens, that would be sort of fun and interesting, but that's not what I mean. I'm talking about the personality traits, because personality is an identity, and it's just the concept of self that you are entertaining in your mind. So this morning, I talk about the two circles, mind and the body. And I talked about this is your fourth dimension, intellectual thinking, right? And the thinking and the feeling and the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Now, until the age of 6 and 7, the subconscious mind is fully open. That's why I was born in Tokyo, and I grew up in Peru, so you might hear my Spanish accent. It was a piece of cake for me to learn Spanish, because I was there in Peru from 2 to 11. So until the age of 6 and 11, your subconscious mind is fully open. Your subconscious mind can only accept information. When you start developing your conscious mind awareness, you start being able to reject information. So that's why children can learn language easily. And when we get to adult, we need to sort of practice over and over, right? So notice that the ability for all of us to learn language. We didn't try to learn language, but you just absorbed it. That's because, whatever the language that you speak, that's because your subconscious mind was fully open. Then notice that just like you absorb and learn all the language with ease, and so automatically, you absorb all the emotional traits from your mother, you absorb all the dynamic from your family, you absorb all the social norm from the society and school that you were surrounded by. And that form a certain belief about the world and certain belief about you. That is how the self is developed, development of the self. The self is the image in your mind. So that is what we call a self-image, or the concept of self. The concept that we have about ourselves in our mind is genetically and environmentally conditioned. We absorb who we think we are, who we feel we are, what we believe about ourselves and the world, just like we absorb language when we're little. Even when we were in our mother's embryo, the subconscious mind absorbed all that emotional dynamic, anger, worry, conversation, the energy of the conversation, that your mother had through your embryo. And self-image is a visual in your mind, the concept of yourself. It's the product of the thinking and the image, because we think in picture. And in the subconscious body, the self-image becomes self-esteem, which is the feeling, and self-worth. Worthiness, which is the key for the development of the new self, the new version of you, is a feeling. And when you feel long enough something, it becomes a part of a fixated belief. So you're thinking right now automatically in a way that we feel yourself to be, because you can you can create a certain thinking to change your feeling, but how we feel about ourselves automatically cause us to think thoughts. Because not many of us are conditioned to deliberately think thoughts, so we kind of, we are not intentionally choosing thoughts, then the habitual tendency is an automatic thinking pattern as a default bubbles up in the mind based on the worthiness and what we believe to be true for us. Does that make sense? So the reason that I wanted to highlight on the second section of day one, the development of the self, is we need to understand how our current self has been developed, and to know that we can change it through a certain practice, so we can begin nurturing the self to move closer to the soul, so the soul can express through to demonstrate whatever we desire in the physical world. That is the loop. So we are programmed, and 95% of the time, we're moving through our life subconsciously. Sometimes people call this 98%, but let's just, for the sake of simplicity, and 5% is conscious mind. So unless we understand this and deliberately choose our thinking and deliberately decide how we want to see ourselves, we automatically, as a default state, continue to see ourselves in a way that we have always been seeing based on how we feel about us. Let me tell you, there are 3 ways to produce thoughts. Let me eraser. This is what I was looking for. Okay, so when we are not deliberately choosing thoughts based on what we want to think, we often start thinking thoughts as a past present thinking. The past experience dictates what we think. We are also very good at thinking thought from outside in. You see something using the 5 senses and impact your thinking. We often call this reacting to the outside world. These 2 things, past present thinking and outside in thinking, happens automatically. And we're programmed to think that way, or because we're not programmed to think in any other way, as a default state, we end up producing thoughts that way. But when we begin understanding the importance of thoughts and the image that we hold in the screen of the mind, those are the conception of ourselves. We start practicing thinking from present, future, and then, past and the future are basically non-existent because there's only now, but this is just for the sake of explanation. So when I say present, future thinking, which is the number 3, which we want to practice living, is to understand the heart desire and having a clear picture of what life we want to be living, And in order to create that living in the outside world, who do we need to become in our mind first? And then we practice thinking thoughts from that place. What would I think if I'm this person? What would I think if I'm already there? Present, future. Because as I said earlier in the morning, that version of you that is closer to the perfection of the soul already exists in the spiritual plane. So by tapping into the imagination, which I am starting to say is the real world, because many people use the term reality as a physical outside world. But if the law of perpetual transmutation of energy, which is the manifestation process that I explained earlier in the morning, well, it's still morning, but earlier in the morning, is working all the time, and the outside physical world is always an effect and the materialization of our thinking and imagination. To me, the real reality is our imagination. We might like that idea. Not many people embody that truth in every single moment because we're programmed to see the physical world as a real world. But what if your imagination that you have all control over with your choice, whatever you want to imagine, if that is the seed of the manifestation in the outside world, which is the real world? The reality, the physical world that we're assuming that is a true world can be altered through our imagination. Then I like to choose to see that the imagination and our thinking is the real world that we can create by choice, and the outside physical world is the after effect, or my mentor Kathleen calls the historical document of our past thinking. So it's great to enjoy nature. It's great to enjoy what the experience that we can sense through the five senses. I'm not saying to ignore that, but when something disempowering is happening in our life, we need to have an ability and mental awareness to suspend and neutralize the outside in and the past present, and then train our mind to living the fourth chosen imaginary world, because that is where the seed is to manifest anything in the physical world. Does that make sense? So the reality, this takes a little bit time to create a shift. The real reality is whatever we can choose to create in the imagined world, including our thinking. I was talking in the group last night that it's really important to be mindful with the language that we use whenever we say I am something, right? So because people tends to use and then talk about something that's not working, right? Like I am struggling. This is not easy for me, right? And that might be the experience in the physical world. But when something is challenging or difficult, and when you affirm that by using the term I, you are enforcing and identify yourself as that version of you who you do not want to be. I am struggling, which is I am, right? So, when we do affirmation, and then when you're into like a law of attraction and manifestation, we often talk about starting with, I am so happy and grateful now that. Why do we do that? Why do we use the term I am in present tense? And why do we say, I am so happy and grateful now that? That's because the soul doesn't recognize time. It's everything happening in the now. And if the perfection and the version of you that you're aspiring already exists in the spiritual plane, it has nothing to do with the future. It has everything to do with becoming aware of that version of you in the now. So we talk about I am so happy and grateful now that. Now, notice that I said a moment ago that the fifth dimension, the essence of us is already happiness, already grateful, already joy. So what are we doing when we affirm? Let me actually, this is so good actually. Let me talk about this. I am, oh, you know what? Let me not make it shorter. I want to write the actually. I am so happy and grateful, right? We do this affirmation. I am so happy and grateful. This is the time that we develop this muscle called patience for me to write this. Grateful. Now that it's a present tense. We think, and I think a lot of people, correct me if I'm wrong, many people are not fully aware of the effect of this sentence. I am so happy and grateful now that, right? It's a present tense because in the spiritual plane, there's no time. And then who is the I am? So happiness and gratefulness is who we are in the spiritual fifth dimension, in the plane of the soul. And here we are using a language which is the product of the fourth dimension, which is the self saying, I am so happy and grateful now that, right? So to me, this affirmation sentence that we say every single day, it could be gratitude stuff, or it could be something that you want to attain as a goal. When the self says, I am so happy and grateful, when the self experiences happiness and gratefulness, the self is merging into the energy of the soul. And because in the fifth dimension, the present moment, now that, and the is the only thing that exists, whenever we say, I am so happy and grateful now that, we're creating that energy of the soul in the concept of self, moving the self closer to the soul. Does that make sense? So I just wanted to be on the same page. Like whenever we say and use language, thoughts, words, those are a four-dimensional communication. And then when you say this, and when you feel the happiness, and when you feel the gratefulness in the now, you're tapping into the energy of the heart opening. The gatekeeper, the mind, opens the gate so you can connect, the self connect with the energy of the soul. And the more you live there, and the more you affirm that you are that version, the ideal version, whatever that version that you want to connect with, you will start collapsing time because you're experiencing that in the now. Does that make sense? So this is a little bit of education around the affirmation and the power of affirmation, because I know that, I think most of the time people are taught that, okay, when you do the affirmation and when you do the this practice, you say, I am so happy and grateful now that. And for many people, I think this is becoming mechanical, right? And not fully appreciating and understanding that how this conversation and a sentence is doing for the self and the soul and the energy. This is what we're doing. So another thing that I want to talk about before we finish this whiteboard thing is to, okay, is saying thank you. You're welcome. This is powerful. Yes. So when we understand what we are actually really doing by understanding the basics of the language and the relationship between the self and the soul, it becomes more powerful, right? The more we connect with the meaning and connect with the intention behind it, we move away from a mechanical thing, and then we call this, we enter into the spirit, but we become intentional and deliberate, and that is when we become powerful. So one of the things that I want to talk about, actually, I'm going to finish the slides on the whiteboard. Okay, so one of the things that I want to talk about is the traits of the subconscious mind. The traits of the subconscious mind. So earlier I mentioned about the subconscious mind can be changed through repetition. The subconscious mind can be changed through repetition. And the subconscious mind cannot reject information, can only accept. Yeah. The subconscious mind cannot hear the term not. So when I say don't think about dog, everyone just thought about dog, right? So instead of saying what you don't want, so there are a lot of people who are experiencing anxiety, and when I ask people what is it that you want, they tell me I don't want this anxiety, right? So that is what you don't want, but you want to identify the opposite of what is it that you want instead. That's number 3. Number 4, subconscious mind is connected to the infinite universal intelligence. What does that really mean? So you can see subconscious mind as a feeling. So whenever you think and imagine in your picture, you create some feeling in your body. That feeling is the language of the subconscious mind. So when you start feeling in a certain way, and when you sustain that feeling, and when that feeling that you're generating becomes a dominant energy in you, you start seeing the environment shifting. Because we're an energetic creature, in a circumstance, environment, things come around us, resonating and harmonizing with what the subconscious is, how the subconscious is vibrating. Does that make sense? So we work on the imagination and visualization often, but the purpose of visualizing something or anything is not to see, but to feel what we saw. We must tap into the feeling, because when you start feeling what you saw, you are experiencing that in the now, because feeling often always happens in the now, right? And then instead of seeing that in your imagined world, when you feel that visual, you are in it. So you're bringing whatever that you're desiring in this present moment energetically. And that is what we want to begin doing, meaning that, development of the self, we have a certain pattern in our feelings and emotions and belief, and we have a certain pattern about our thinking. Often, I can't remember who said this, like we become what we think about. And often we talk about, in order to produce a different result and shift the external environment, we need to become somebody else. So if we connect those sentences, we become what we think about, we need to become somebody else to produce a different result. It means that we need to begin changing our thinking to produce a different result. Now, changing the thinking, but most of us are conditioned to think thoughts automatically. So we need to sort of understand that dynamic of how we develop the sense of self and begin changing little by little by little. I feel like I'm forgetting to say one of the traits of the subconscious, but if that comes up, I will add that tomorrow. So I want to invite you again to sort of connect back with your life. What is the life? How your life will look and feel and can be experienced when you have your limitlessness of the soul's expression expressed, and when your heart is fully fulfilled, your heart desire is fully fulfilled. I want you to picture that. I'm just seeing as your comment. So when you say, is this like a quantum leap? I think you're mentioning about when I said the collapsing time. Yes, quantum leap is a collapsing time is definitely quantum leap. And quantum leap happens when we let go of the idea of time. And then when you start vibrating in that state through the feeling now. Oh, good, Jennifer. So whenever we experience tear, it means that your soul is seeking this. Tear is a great thing. You know, there are different types of tears, but when you are moved to something, or that sort of tear is always something that you knew, but you ended up ignoring, and the soul and the body are meeting. The soul and the body are meeting, finally. Because your body is a container, right? It's interesting because the body resides in the three-dimensional world. So whatever that you are experiencing, including my root canal that I had a couple of weeks ago, is a symptom. Is a symptom, right? So, and the body does not know how to lie. So whatever that your body start producing as a symptom is, just like I said a moment ago, is the lack of alignment with your soul seeking a certain expression. And then when you hear things like this, and when the words and the conversation speaks to your soul, now you start feeling relaxing and okay, this is my home, right? And then you start creating some producing some tears, because your soul already knows. Your heart, there's nothing that your heart doesn't know. So I want you to also, everyone, begin identifying what are the things that you might be suppressing. What are the things that you might be suppressing because of the external situation, circumstance, or because of the voice in your head, because somebody told us anything, because of the idea of worthiness, because those are all limits based on the programming. And what if you could live the life that you want to be living however you want to without limits? And when I say that, I don't want you to look at it as, oh, that's a fantastic and attractive idea, but the reality is, right? And then when we make that transition, notice that we often, not often, almost all the time, identify the physical world as a reality. Because the reality, if the reality is the imagined world, the fourth dimension, and all we want to take care of is the self, to be able to connect with the spiritual essence. But for me, I am convinced that the physical world just is. The fifth dimension just is. And the fourth dimension, the self, which is the thought, is the bridge to really connect the fifth dimension and the third dimension. So that's why this is the second layer of spiritual realization. We don't want to have the material life looking at us, okay, this is the reality life, and I'm going to go into the mountain to do spiritual practice, or I'm going to disassociate from the outside world and go inwards, right? So that is often the spiritual practice is done. But what I'm interested in more than anything else is how can we bring that into the physical world? And the answer is to truly understand this manifestation process that's working all the time, and to begin working on the self. What are you saying, Yelling? I think there was a disconnect with what I wanted to what I believe are for real now. Okay, yeah. So the desire and the belief needs to sort of merge and come closer towards each other. The last piece that I want to talk about today is to truly understand the concept of self, but also, I've been talking about how the spiritual practice is done, But also in the personal development, self-development field, I think there's a strong emphasis in the outside achievement, right? And then in the personal development industry, we talk about, the mindset and the mindset and the mindset. But I really want people to learn, understand, and embody this idea that we're energetic beings. We're energetic beings. We're spiritual beings and we're energetic beings. And it needs to start from fulfillment. It needs to start from fulfillment and then transferring that into a success, not the other way around. This is very important because in the personal development industry, there's a movement right now that the first success is the attainment of whatever the accomplishment that you want to accomplish in the physical world. And then people are realizing how unfulfilled they are, and they see that as a second success is happiness and fulfillment. I see that as out of order. If we are thrown and delivered into this physical world as a spiritual being, we need to start with that internal fulfillment first and understand this movement of the energy through the thinking and feeling, and then manifest success from the fulfilled place. Work inside out as a, yes, exactly. Michelle, you're saying bringing soul's purpose into physical world is working from the inside out. Yes, you got it. Okay. That is it, everybody. If you go to a workbook, you have two questions from the morning and both the mornings, the first section and the second section. I will highly invite everyone to work on a little bit inside today and to reflect, because the information that I deliver is in knowledge. And by asking and answering the question, you're going to internalize it and little by little begin shifting your inside. Okay, this is perfect. That is all for day one. We're going to come together again at the same time, 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. You will receive the replay later today via email, and I'm going to also post in the Facebook group. And then you will get the reminder for the Zoom link for tomorrow. It's the same Zoom link, but tonight and then an hour before tomorrow. Okay, awesome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining, and have a fantastic